to Jigsaw. This morning we're going to be talking about somebody who was very small and somebody who was very big. Now, I wonder how much you've grown since Anthony and I saw you last at Jigsaw. Maybe you've just grown a little bit, or maybe a bit more, or maybe quite a lot. I don't expect many of you are as big as your mums yet, but when Anthony and I see you next, you'll be so much bigger than when we saw you last. Well, today in our story, there is somebody who is very big, just like my big teddy here. Look, he's almost as big as me. And there's somebody who's very small. Can you see how small that tiny teddy is compared to that big teddy? I expect you've got a big and a small teddy at home as well. So my teddy's going to sit down there ready for the singing later. So today in our story, the little boy who we're going to talk about is called David. There, can you see David? He's quite small, isn't he? Might be a bit difficult to see. Now, David had lots of brothers and they were all much bigger than him, and he was the smallest of them all. But David was going to be the next king. God had chosen him, even though he was small, to be the next king over all the Israelites. And that's because God doesn't look at what we look like on the outside. He looks at what's inside our hearts. And David loved God and he listened to God and he obeyed God, and he spent lots of time talking to God and singing songs, praising God. So God knew that David loved him and God chose him to be king. Now, David's job was a very important one because he had to look after the family sheep. Now, here's my sheep. I don't know if any of you have been making sheep this week, or maybe after today you could have a go at making a sheep from the craft that we sent through. So this is a sheep with a wobbly eye. It's a bit bigger than David, isn't it? But anyway, his job was to look after the sheep. So every day he would take them to the fields and look after and guard the sheep while his brothers were out in the army. Now, sometimes while David was looking after the sheep, a lion would come. Here's a lion coming, and the lion would want to eat the sheep. But David was very good at protecting the sheep. And you know what he used? He used something called a sling, and I've made one. Okay, it was out of a bit of material and it had a string on it. And David would take a little stone, can you see my little stone? And he would put it in the sling, and then he would whirl the sling round and throw the stone, and the stone would go through the air, and it would either hit the lion and kill it, or it would frighten the lion away. And so David was able to protect all the sheep from any lions or bears that came, and he was very good with the sling. Now, one day David's dad said to him, David, will you take a picnic to your brothers, some food, because they're fighting the Philistine army and they need food. So off David went, and he came to the place where the Israelite army was standing waiting, and he could hear a big loud voice, and he saw a man called Goliath, and he was part of the enemy army. Here he is. Now, he doesn't look that big, does he? But Goliath was huge. If I put him here on my picture and stick him on, you can see, I don't know if you can see the little people here, how small they are and how big Goliath was. Let's stick him on properly. There he is. So he was huge, Goliath. He was so big, and he would shout to all the Israelite army and say, if you can fight me and defeat me, then you will win and we will serve you. But if one of you can't fight me, then I will fight you and we will win and you will be our slaves. So all the Israelite army were very, very frightened. And David could hear this. Here he comes, Now look, can you see my David? He's very small here. You can see how small he is compared to Goliath. David came up and he heard all this shouting, and he heard all the horrible things that Goliath was saying, the mean things he was saying about the Israelites and about God as well, saying God can't save you. And David thought, why is nobody fighting Goliath? I will fight him, he said. I know that God will look after and help me to defeat him. So David went to the king and said, I will fight Goliath. And so the king said, ooh, okay, David, here, you better have my armour. But David said, no, it's too big and too heavy. He didn't want a big shield and a big sword. He was only a little boy. So instead, David got his sling and he went to the river and he collected 5 stones. Count them with me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stones. And he put them in his pockets and he put 1 in his sling and took it to where Goliath was. And David said to Goliath, I will fight you. And what do you think Goliath said? Look how big Goliath is and how small David is. Goliath laughed at him. He said, you're so small, you can't fight me. And David said, yes, God is with me and God will help me to defeat you. And then David took his sling, you might be able to see his tiny sling there, and he whirled it round his head with one of his pebbles and he threw it and it hit Goliath and down Goliath fell and he had been defeated. So David had defeated Goliath with God's help. David had trusted God and God had helped him. And all the Philistines ran away very scared. And the Israelite army was so happy. Because even though Goliath was very large, very frightening, David knew that God was even bigger than Goliath. And that with God's help, David could defeat him. So maybe sometimes there are things that you're scared of that seem really big and really frightening. But God says that he loves us and he can help us and protect us just like he did with David.
Okay, so we're going to do some singing. So make sure you're in position. We're going to start, as always, with the wheels on the bus. So let's see your wheels. They're going to go round and round. Okay, here we go. Wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. Wheels on the bus go round and round all day long. The wipers on the bus go swish, 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 swish. The wipers on the bus swish, swish, swish all day long. And what do the doors on the bus do? They open and shut with a big clap. You ready? The doors on the bus, they open and shut, open and shut, open and shut. The doors on the bus, they open and shut all day long. And the children, what do the children do? Go up and down. Ready? The children on the bus go up and down, up and down, up and down. The children on the bus go up and down all day long. Brilliant. Right, shall we let's see some twinkling stars? Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Great, shall we the bobbin up? Wind the bobbin, wind the bobbin, pull, pull, clap, clap, clap. Wind it back quiet, really still. Have you seen the bunny sleeping till it's nearly noon? Shall we go and wake them with a merry tune? Oh, so still, are they ill? Wake up and hop, little bunnies, hop, hop, hop. Hop, little bunnies, hop, hop, hop. Hop, little bunnies, hop, hop, hop. Hop, bunnies, hop and stop. Go back to sleep. Shh, be really quiet. Have you seen the bunny sleeping till it's nearly noon? Shall we go and wake them with a merry tune? Oh, so still, are they ill? Wake up and hop, little bunnies, hop, hop, hop. Hop, little bunnies, hop, hop, hop. Hop, little bunnies, hop, hop, hop. Hop, little bunnies, hop and stop. Right, now then, we're going to do a song about animals now, is that right? Have you
Yes.
seen the pussycat sitting on the wall? Can you purr? Have you heard it beautiful purr? I can't purr. And can you be a lion stomping round its den? And can you do a terrible roar? And one so big, one so small. Our Heavenly Father cares for them all. Let's try it, shall we? Have you seen the pussycat sitting on the wall? Have you heard his beautiful purr? Have you seen the lion stomping round his den? Have you heard his terrible roar? Roar! One so big, one so small. Our Heavenly Father cares for them all. One so big, one so small. Our Heavenly Father cares. Now, have you seen the children? Have you seen the children coming home from school? Have you heard them shout hooray? Hooray! Have you seen the grown-ups coming home from work, saying what a horrible day? What a horrible day. One so big, one so small. Our Heavenly Father cares for them all. One so big, one so small. Our Heavenly Father cares. Brilliant. Now then, can you reach up high? Can you touch the ground? Stamp your feet? Can you turn around? Can you go woo woo? Right, here we go then. I reach up high, touch the ground, I stamp my feet and turn around. I've got to woo woo. Jump and dance with all my might. I might look funny, but that's alright. I've got to woo woo. Praise the Lord. And again, I reach up high, touch the ground, stamp my feet and turn around. I've got to woo woo. Praise the Lord. And jump and dance with all my I might look funny, but that's alright. I've got to woo woo. Praise the Lord. Right. Now then, we're going to row some boats. So you might need a toy, or you can get someone to row the boat, or you can just rock backwards and forwards on your own. You need a boat on your own. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. for this week. So we'll see you again really, really soon. So bye-bye for now. Bye.